Excuse me. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. It is Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another Sunday of, you've guessed it, Success Starter Series. Y'all know we go live each and every Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about different topics that are all around the ultimate topic of helping you to set your week up for success. Because in doing the work to set your week up for success, you're doing the work to set your life up for success. And as your productivity and accountability coach, I'm all about coaching and empowering you to find a hidden time in your day. Time that you can use to pour back into yourself as you pursue your goals, your purpose, and your life passions, while still maintaining your current responsibilities, but without the stress and without the overwhelm. And it's the last week of the month. Like last week was the last full week of the month, but we're transitioning now from April into May, and it's time to make sure that you are planning for your next month. It's time to make sure that you're doing the work to reset, to recharge, and to create that game plan to execute as you go into the next month. Because as you do the work to make each month better than the next, or capitalize off of, all the things, it takes work. And so we're not here to actually do more. We're here, as we talk about quite often, to do what it is that matters most, to maximize your time, to put your time to work for you in a way that brings more focus, more balance, and overall more energy. Because y'all know we anti-hustle and grind. While we're not anti-hard work, it's all about being intentional about the work that you're doing as you're setting up to execute. Because the goal is never to hustle. It's to do what needs to be done intentionally with the focus, because you understand what it is that needs to be done. And so you have that game plan to go about doing it. And so when you think about planning for the next month, resetting, getting yourself together, or just the overall idea of going through the month, most people fail when it comes to planning. Really, it's often the execution phase, but they go hand in hand. It's because they don't often take that time to pause. They don't often take that time to reset. But instead, what they do is just keep going from month to month, taking last month's chaos and trying to wipe it off, make it better, and still keep it going into this month. Instead of taking that time to reset, to recharge, to refocus, to get realigned. I know I was talking about for myself that for me, like the month of, I'm calling it the month because it was like mid-March to like mid-April to like legit like last week or so of April, that I just felt like I couldn't quite get a grip. And what happened was I came into March without a plan. No, not March without a plan. I didn't come into April with my month fully planned because March had got busy. And so with that, I never quite caught the groove of getting off of that busy season in March, so that when it came time to plan for April and Q2, I was still trying to catch myself up. And so legit, mid-April is when I finally got my footing for April. And then now here it is, time to start planning for the month of May. But instead of me throwing the month of April away and saying, I'll just start fresh in May, even though it took me almost half of the month to get the groove and get it together and to finish my April planning and my Q2 planning, I stuck with it. I focused on it. I got it done. Because in taking the time to do that, here it is now, me getting ready to walk into May. And I'm not fully done prepped. I'm not going to lie to y'all and tell y'all that I am. But I'm much more prepped than I was. And I have a co-working session and I'm doing a power hour today. So I have like 2 focused hours, maybe 1.5. Focused hours of time that I'll have today to get some more work done for May planning before I have to go to church and have meetings and all the things for the rest of the afternoon. But I'm coming into May with this game plan. Like I have my word for the month already. I know what the theme is. Like I've started doing some of my May planning. Like I have my goals. I've started typing them up. My dry erase board is behind me. I've started updating it. And so while I'm not fully done with May planning, I'm much more done with May planning than I was at this time in April, coming into the month of April, let alone Q2. And so when we start looking at and thinking about why is it that most people fail when it comes to a new month, is because they don't take that time to pause and to reset. They just, like I said, you keep dragging what happened last month into this month, and you don't really put yourself in that position to where you have a system that's going to help you to get going. And sometimes because of that, you set these goals or you start pursuing these goals that are based off of pressure. And it's not a pressure that you put on yourself. It's a pressure that society, your job, business, other people in business, social media is putting on you to do these things that you feel pressured to do, but they aren't really a priority to you if you actually took that time to pause, to reflect, and to reset. You would see that the priorities that they want you to have aren't actually what's important to you and aren't the priorities to you. And you are what matters in your life. the priorities, the goals, the things that everybody else is trying to tell you is important isn't what's actually important if it's not important to you. There are times that things that other people say are important are actually important to you. And by all means, focus on that, because that then becomes the priority, because you are what's the guiding force behind it. But with that, with focusing on the priorities that are often articulated or created by other people, you often don't have the time, the energy, or the capacity to focus on that, because that's not where you really were aligned at. And so for me, like the shift between March to April, for me, was more about my capacity and my energy. And I was trying to manage my time, or I was managing my time, because I knew that it was a busy season. It was a busy couple weeks, and I didn't really have a lot of extra downtime based off of work to pour into business and life. And so I had to be strategic about what were the priorities. And though planning is very much important to me, hello, productivity and accountability coach, I was focusing more so on my day-to-day planning and my week-to-week planning, instead of trying to create this bigger plan for the month of April, because of the limited time, the energy, and the capacity that I had. And so what I want you to utilize, or what I want you to think about as you are transitioning from April into May, if you have not started your planning for the month, or if you're like me, you started your planning and you're still trying to fine-tune these details, this could be a good exercise for you to utilize as you do that work of reflecting and resetting. And we talk a lot about the Lee method. Y'all know, look, examine, and execute. And as we use this reset, we're kind of walking that reset through the same framework of the Lee method, because we came up with like an acronym for reset. So it's 5 letters. And y'all know the Lee method is 3, but sometimes within the Lee method, when we're looking at examining, you need an extra step between there. Sometimes when you're going from examination into execution, you need an extra step in there. So hopefully this reset is going to help you as you translate it from the Lee method into this. Because oftentimes, not even oftentimes, when you start with the Lee method, the L is about looking. And so with the reset formula, we're going to reflect. Because even when we talk about looking, we're talking about what worked and what didn't. So with the reset, we're talking about what worked and what didn't. You're reflecting. You're taking that time to look back to figure out, this time last month, or this time last month, how did I feel coming into the month? Or even if it's not this time last month, like what worked for you throughout this month in terms of the goals or the plans and the things like that you had. What worked? What didn't? And then in looking at that and understanding that, you might figure out that capacity might have been a thing that you lacked. Energy, time management might have been a thing that you lacked. So we're going to energize. You're going to understand, where is it that your energy is focused or needs to be focused, maybe might be the better thing. Like, what is your capacity is essentially what you're asking. Like, what is your energy? Where does it need to be focused? Where does it need to be protected? Where does it need to be utilized? Because we have a finite number of resources. And in this case, the resource we're talking about is your energy or your capacity. We're going to talk about time a little bit as well. But you have this limited amount of capacity to be able to show up and to do. And so when you look at it and you start thinking about, what is my capacity? What is it that I need to get done? And how is it that I'm going to focus and prioritize, like my time? So I can look at and understand what worked and what didn't in terms of my transition from March into April. And what I'm correcting as I transition from April into May. And with that, I understand that while March, or really more so April, I didn't have a lot of capacity. Like, I was on go. Like, I ate lunch every day at work. But did I really have like a true lunch break? Not necessarily. And oftentimes my lunch break is when I utilize to work on my business, to work on posts, to get things done outside of my, my morning time and then the evening time that I do have when I have it. So based off of that and understanding that, when I look at my calendar for the month of May, though I understand that things will likely be added, my May calendar is a lot more chill. Let me knock on wood. My May calendar is a little bit more chill. Like, yes, I have a week of trial, and then I had a week that I was blocked off that I was supposed to be going out of town. So I'm, reconfiguring that. So basically, based off of those things, like, I had blocked these days at work, so there's nothing scheduled for these time frames. And so when you look at the S part of that simplicity, or even simplifying, this is kind of like that examination phase. This is where you're starting to cut the clutter. Is where you're trying to cut out the things that aren't the priorities, where you're trying to, as you're working to protect your energy, is where you're looking to figure out what stays and what goes. So it's essentially where you're looking at creating and understanding what are your top priorities. I know a lot of things is the priority, a lot. So how are you going to identify your priorities? Are you going to choose one priority a week? Are you going to choose, 3 priorities for the month? Like, what is it? We can't have 50-11 priorities. So maybe you choose 1 to 3 priorities for the week, and maybe you choose 3 to 5 overall for the month, and then you divide those out over the course of the 4 full weeks that is the month of May. When it comes to like that simplification, this is where boundaries comes into play. This is where understanding that no is a complete sentence comes into play. Because even in like the lead method, this examination phase, this is where we're really getting down into it. This is where you're looking to figure out what can you cut out, what can you get rid of, what can you get rid of, let go of, what isn't serving you, all of those things. And so as you transition from that simplification, like once you start identifying what things need to be cut, when it ultimately comes down to the very idea of being productive and having a game plan, when you start looking at and thinking about how am I going to plan for this next month, how am I going to plan for the thing that's coming next, this is where you really have to get in and figure out what's important. Because if it's not important, those are the things you want to start letting go of. Clearing the clutter, cutting the junk, cutting the noise, all of those things. And so with that, that will then take you to that execution phase. So the end of the lead method, but for the reset frame, we got 2 more letters to go through. We got to get through the E and the T. And so with executing, this is when you actually start working on that actual game plan. It's where you're creating those action steps that are going to help you to clear the clutter, let go of the things that aren't serving you. Because now that you've identified your 1 to 3 priorities for the week or your 3 to 5 priorities for the month, you're able to create a game plan that's going to help you to get to there. Because the action steps, or I guess I should say better yet, the priorities is the end result. These are the things you want to be the priorities, or these are the things that you're looking to execute on and complete. And so when it comes to creating an action plan, you're working on that reverse engineering phase. And so in creating that action step, you know what you want to be the priority, or you know what is the priority for the month. How are you going to make this thing the actual priority? Like, how are you going to show up in this thing, with this thing, and through this thing? That's where that reverse engineering comes into play, in creating that action plan that's going to help you to get there, to do that, to work through it, to talk through it, all the things through it. And so when you understand your priorities, or when you understand your goals, you know what is the priority for you. Because if we take it back to, to that energizing phase, and of understanding what worked and what didn't, as we do that reflection work, you're then able to really understand that if this is important, as I'm clearing the clutter, as I'm simplifying, here's what I need to do to make it simple, to make it easy. Now, I'm not saying it ain't going to be work. Let's be clear. Here's what I need to do to make it simpler, to make it easier for me to be able to actually go about pursuing this goal, going after this goal, and ultimately doing the work to hit this goal. Because if this is the priority, if this is the goal, here are the action steps that I'm going to take. And again, if we look at these 1 to 3 priorities for the week, what am I going to be doing each day that's going to build on this as the priority for the week to get it done? So like, for example, for me, I do a brain dump for a month, but I ultimately make a to-do list each week. And within my to-do list for the week, I still rank and say that these are the top priorities. It's the thing that I post each and every Sunday as my to-do list for the week in terms of business. And typically on Saturdays, I'll post what got completed. But your girl been on go so much, I hadn't really been able to do that. Because sometimes I gotta have it on my dry erase board that if I'm not home, I digress. It don't really matter for that part. But what I'm saying is, in understanding what are your 1 to 3 priorities for the week, as you make your game plan for the week, i.e. the execution phase and execution plan as you walk through it. And then if you look at your 3 to 5 priorities for the month, those are essentially your goals for the month. And what are you doing to be able to pursue and to go after those? And so in order to do that, that's when you got to tap in. You have to tap in by building these weekly check-ins with yourself to course correct. That's where your to-do list comes into play. The reason I tell y'all to do a brain dump and make a to-do list each and every week is so that you have something that keeps you accountable, to help you to understand, here's where my priority is. And so I make my to-do list, and I make it in a couple different ways. It's typed in my planner. Not typed. It's handwritten in my planner. It's typed in Asana, so it's typed digitally. And then I put it on my dry erase board so that some kind of way I'm going to be able to see it. And then if I need a quick look, I have, the one that I create in Canva that I post as my quick guide of like these are the priorities. So like, I got multiple touch points to make sure that I understand that this is what's important to me. And I have these different days of the week that gives me the ability to check in. Now, given every day, honestly, every day, honestly, is a day that you can check in. But sometimes, you get those days and you might not look at your calendar. You might not look at your to-do list. You just kind of went through the day because you knew this was a game plan for the day. You just went through and you executed it, but you didn't get a chance to check in on the bigger goals. That's fine. Not knocking that. But I also make sure that Wednesday, that's like hump day. That's a good time for me to check in. And we have a clubhouse room, our weekly wellness check-in, where we're checking in and asking ourselves, how are we this week? How have we been doing? And that's a mental reminder, not just because of the clubhouse room, but we've been doing it so long that that's my mental reminder also for me to check in on my to-do list to see, where am I on these tasks? Like, how we doing? We doing good? Oh, okay. And then with having different accountability partners, that also helps as well. Because I might send my accountability partner, I typically always send my list on Sunday. Unless I'm not about my computer, but I can use Canva on my phone. But if I'm not about my to-do list to be able to type it up, they don't always send it back to me on Sunday. So sometimes they send it to me on Monday or whatever the case may be. So typically when they check in with me on their list, that's a mental reminder as well for me to go back and look at my list. And so when you really tap in, this is where building in those check-ins and those checkpoints comes into play. As a productivity and accountability coach, I'm often that check-in for my clients because sometimes they forget the things that they thought was a priority. So when I check in with them halfway through the week, whenever their sessions are, to say, how's it going? How are you doing? What have you done for yourself? Or if I know that they have something coming up that's going to keep them extra busy. Like one of my clients, like I'm going to check in with her tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. No, Tuesday, not tomorrow. Check in with her on Tuesday because I know that she's got a busy day on Wednesday. And so we created, as we were planning out her week for this week, we created a game plan to make sure that Tuesday, by the time she go to bed, everything is good because Wednesday is going to be go, go, go. And as she needs to be able to flow from task to task because it's going to involve travel, commuting, people coming over, and all of these different aspects. And these are like 3 different parts of her day that involve different aspects. But at the end of the day, because it's going to be go, 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 once it's time to come home, you're going to be hosting. And so we need to be able to create and to tap in to make these check-ins, make these checkpoints that helps us to make sure that we're in alignment with what it is that we need to do and how it is that we need to do it and where it is that we're looking to show up. Because having a game plan is ultimately about how it is that you're going to protect your time, protect your energy, and protect your peace. By understanding and having these boundaries, you're able to show up and do what needs to be done. Because no, productivity isn't doing it all. But having a plan for how it is that you're going to set yourself up for the week, the month, is all about helping you to reset, to recharge, and ultimately to take back your time by creating that game plan to execute for what's to come. And so if you think that taking care of you isn't a part of the strategy, use a lie. Taking care of you is very much a part of the strategy. It's one of the key components of the strategy because if you aren't taken care of as you're working through this plan, who's taken care of? Who are you taking care of? Because if we go back to the beginning on that reflection aspect and that energizing aspect of what worked and what didn't and where does your energy and your time need to be protected, the boundaries aspect comes back into play and that helps you to see that you are a priority. You're a part of the strategy because you're the one that has to execute. You're the one that has to do this. So if you let someone else dictate to you what the priorities are, you're the one still showing up and doing the work. How much more are you willing to show up and do the work when the idea was yours versus when it was someone else's? Yes, you can adopt someone else's idea, but is it in alignment with the goals, the plans, the thoughts, and all of that you have? Because if it's not, why are you committed to it? Why are you saying yes to it? We have to understand that it's up to you to dictate and decide the protection of your energy, the use of your boundaries, the goals that you're setting, the plan that you're working on, all of those things. So if you take a step back and you ask yourself, how do I want to feel this month? Let that guide you. Let that be the thing that you focus setting your goals around, that you focus creating your plan around. Because if you understand how it is that you want to feel, you're going to be willing to show up and do the work to make sure you feel that way. If you want to feel in alignment, if you want to feel peaceful, if you want to feel productive, if you want to feel booked and busy, if you want to feel stressed, like however it is you decide that you want to feel, I hope you're choosing positive verbs for yourself on how you want to feel. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. This isn't just about what it is that you want to achieve, but this is about how you want to feel as you do the work to achieve that. Who do you want to become, and who do you want to be in that process of going through this achievement? If you're looking for support, if you're looking for help as your productivity and accountability coach, this is what I do for my clients. This is how I help my clients. This is how we navigate and journey through this process all together. You want to be able to reset, to reflect, and do it in the right way. And the right way isn't per se my way, it's the way that works for you. And so, yes, I have a framework. Yes, I have strategies to help you to do this. And I've talked you through it. But how are you actually executing on that? Because what you get at the end of each of these steps is going to be differently than what I get. And so while I can be your guide and guide you through it and help you by asking the questions and helping you to walk through the answers to get to the answers that really matters to you, you have to do the work. And so by understanding that you can and you will simplify this aspect, you're going to be able to reset. You're going to be able to reflect, to energize, to simplify, to execute, and to tap in. We talk a lot about the LEAD method: look, examine, and execute. We can use the reset method to dive in deeper on that looking, examining, and executing by give you a couple additional steps to walk through to make sure that as you walk into May, as you transition from April, you really are doing that work to reset. You're really doing that work to recharge yourself. And you're really doing that work to create that game plan that's going to help you to be able to execute as you transition and walk into your next. So will you do it? I don't want you to get to the end of this month, or I guess I should say the end of next month, and feel like you failed. Number one, to fail is your first attempt in learning. So there's that. So hopefully if you feel that you failed when it came to planning for March, planning for April, planning for the year, that you take that lesson and you put that lesson to work for you as you work to reflect and to reset. It's time for you to decide that you are the priority. It's time for you to have goals, have purpose, have passions, and pursue and do all the things that are in alignment in the best way possible for you. So if you're looking for support, if you're looking for the accountability to help you as you prepare to walk into and walk through the next, you need a productivity strategy session. In this single session, 1 hour, hour and a half call, we can work together to create your game plan, i.e. your schedule that's going to allow you to walk through this. If you need more additional support, we can talk one-on-one coaching. We can talk about how in 6 weeks, not only will you get that schedule and that game plan for execution, but you'll have that weekly accountability to help you as you walk through and execute on your schedule. Understanding that sometimes your schedule might change, and until you get and find that schedule that works for you, you might still be a little stuck. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but you have to find what it is that works for you. Because what I often find is that in helping clients create schedules, the schedule that they want to create, once they put it into play, it's not actually what practical for them. Like, it sounds good in their head, it sounds good on paper. Once it's time to execute, that's when the mistakes happen. And so that's why I like to talk to my clients or potential clients to figure out what it is that you're looking to do at the end of the day, to figure out which of those works best for you. I always say, and it's not because it costs more, I always say that one-on-one coaching is oftentimes the best answer, because you get that strategy session, and you get that schedule, but we get to walk through it and tweak it to figure out what adjustments need to be made to make sure that it actually does work for you. Exactly. You need that energy. You getting up on time now. Come on now, Damien. Let's talk. Let's figure it out. Let's work through it. I know with Damien, we know when you were in the Master Your Mornings Masterclass and you were working on creating that morning routine, that morning schedule, that's a part of your day. How you start your day sets the tone for the day. So what are you doing to make sure that you're being able to be productive? What are you doing to plan? What are you doing as you get ready to walk through your next? It's time to reset. It's time to reflect. It's time to energize yourself. It's time to simplify. It's time to execute. It's time to tap in. We're transitioning. If you need help, if you need support, if you're questioning if you need help or if you need support, let's have a conversation. A free productivity, personalized productivity audit, free 20-minute call. Let's talk through, let's walk through and figure out if I can support you, how I can support you, what it is you're looking for support in, to figure out if this is something that you need, or which of the options is the best option for you. So tap in, get the help, get the resources that you need, but most importantly, reset. Reflect, energize, simplify, execute, and tap in. Reflect and reset. We're preparing for the next month. It's time for you to create that execution plan that's going to help you as you walk into the next to make it the best of what's been and of what's to come as you continue to elevate. So, it's been Coach Lee, your productivity and accountability coach, here for another Sunday of, you've guessed it, the Success Starter series. If you catch the live, if you catch the replay and you have questions, feel free to drop them below or send me a message. Let's have a conversation. Let's keep the conversation going. Know and understand what it is that you need to have, what it is you need to do to crush your next month. May's coming. One of the best months of the year because, your girl was born then. But exactly, reflect and reset. You're welcome, Damien. Until next time, guys, Coach Lee is